Welcome back to another episode of the Tattoos and Toddlers podcast. Now, here's the thing. I just had this podcast go on a newsletter, and I was not ready for all these wonderful responses, but I have to tell you, I'm super excited to have Shannon on the show today because she's gotten a nice, really interesting topic, but it's also relevant to our times right now and right here. So, Shannon, let's get into it. Introduce yourself real quick and let's start talking.
Hi. Well, first off, who didn't want to respond to Pink Hair Jen? Okay, so I saw her in the newsletter. I was like, I got to talk to this woman.
Yes.
And she talks about toddlers, which is one of my favorite things. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I'm Shannon Coulter. I go by SS Coulter on social media. So if you ever want to find me, sscoulter.com. But what I was telling Jen about, and I'm excited to share, is that we really have a generation of kids and a generation of parents that are fighting with technology. And I'm very adamant about helping parents win the battle and get their kids playing again so we can have creative adults with pink hair like Jen. Because if we don't have creativity and imagination, we don't have anything. So it's my passion and my mission to help today's parents give their kids a childhood like Jen and I have that's really focused on offline play. But also I realize how hard that is because I have been a mom for 17 years and I know the struggle you have with your kids getting sucked into technology because it's addictive. It's addictive for us, for goodness sakes,
Oh
right? You get
yeah,
home
and it's
and
like,
you're
and if
doing
we're supposed
school.
to be an example, right?
Yeah. So yeah, and so it's kind of it's how do I help? How do we help each other? How do I give a tool to help parents? And it's funny, I was telling Jen that there's a lot of books out there now. There's a lot of studies. For instance, I didn't tell you this yet, Jen, but
Yeah.
like the depression level in girls today has gone up by 140%, and in boys it's 160%. And
Hmm.
they're tying it back to screens because they're on the screens. It's dampening their imagination, but they're also comparing themselves to people like we do as adults. But
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
can see that.
yeah, it's so there's all these statistics, and I can come out here and tell you all of them, or I can offer you the tool to help combat it, and that's what I want to do. So
Yeah.
in doing that, I have a company that I was telling her about. It's called Planet Fasa, and right now we are, what are we, July 8th. I am meeting with our app developer this afternoon.
Oh
Ta-da!
my
So
God, oh my God, the
yeah,
big
I know it's
news,
so
people.
yeah. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to save you from what happened to me. So I'm back in 2008. I got these three kids. I'm having a hard time getting them to go out and to play because they have these screens. I don't know if you know these, but Toontown, Club Penguin, totally fine. They're called sticky websites. So you get on them and you're stuck on them. Like the dopamine's releasing and the kids are stuck on there. And so I couldn't get them to come off. And because they were on there so often, I made this up myself, but like their imagination muscle had atrophied. So even if I put them outside, they're not thinking of things like we used to. So I was like, what can we do to get them out there thinking, playing, and then the imagination level grows? So they'd come in and ask me, what do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, oh God, now I'm the chief entertainment officer as well. Right?
That's a
And I
different
don't,
CEO,
it's
people.
a different CEO. A
CEO.
mom, yeah, CEO. And so I would come up with a few things, but I'm an adult. And after a while, I'd get tired. And what do we do when we're tired? We unfortunately
Give
put the
up.
kids on the screens. Yeah. So then I'm looking on Google and I'm looking on Pinterest. And just like I'm telling you, comparing myself to those perfect moms out there doing all their activities and they turn out perfect. And I'm like, what's the Food Network show? Nailed it.
No,
Seen that show?
I think
It's
so.
they try
Yeah.
to repeat like what somebody does and it like turns out
Yes,
horribly.
and
So
yeah,
that was me
it's
with the crabs.
hilarious.
Yeah. I was
My
like,
favorite was the pirate donut. It was hilarious.
yeah, yeah. So I was doing nailed it with crafts. I'm like, wow, I am not good. The kids are
Nailed
like,
it.
like, she's terrible. So I was like, okay, how can I help myself and other people not have to go out and be overwhelmed by this stuff? I'm not saying that stuff's bad, but it's overwhelming. So what we're doing now is we're coming out with an app, and the app is going to have, I will say, hundreds to thousands of activities in it, and they're all going to be tied to mind, heart, and body points. There's a whole other realm to this. There's characters and everything involved because I want the kids to be excited about it, but that would take too long to explain. But basically, if you have three kids, the app is for parents right now. If you've got three kids, you sign them up in it, and then Jen, I'll give the same example. You come home, It's the end of the week. You're exhausted. Coffee with your girlfriends lasted too long, but you're like, I don't want to put them on screens. You're like, okay, I'm going to make dinner. I have an hour. I have three kids. I want them to run around. So you go into the app and you go, okay, three kids, hour, body activities. And the app goes, here's 10 ideas. And these are things that you and I play. This is kick the can. This is, if you're in the car, this is like, remember Punch Bug? This is stuff. Remember
Hot
Punch Bug?
bug.
Yeah. It's just that kind of thing, but we're not thinking of it, right? So
No, we've done forgot all that stuff.
we
Yeah.
forgot all that stuff. But when we think about it, we laugh. So you tell them the stuff, they go out and play. And the cool thing is, I'm just going to make this up, but you can say this is worth 100 body points. And Jen knows that her kids are like totally geeked out about staying up 5 minutes late, right? So you like, if you
Oh,
get those points, you cash it in and you get to stay up 5 minutes late. That's the whole, it's a points and reward system. That's all it is at your fingertips, super easy. Cause I want to give the kids, like I said, the childhood that we had. And so, and then also they're seeing mom and dad go on technology, get something and get back off, which I think is an awesome lesson. Because
yeah.
yeah,
I was gonna say when we were starting the conversation, because y'all, we had a little pre-conversation because we've only just met. But I really liked the breakdown of the mind, heart, body because I was already imagining what that would look like. It was really cool to like sit here and think about that. Like, because even for myself, I'm like, selfishly, I might be like, I need some activities for myself.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, when I was doing it, when I started doing this, there's a reason it started in 2008. We won't get into it, but I was trying to think what makes a whole person, and you need
Yeah.
your mind, your heart, and your body. And if
Yeah.
you have a child that's really into math, that's great, but you need him to learn about his heart and to move his body. He
Hmm.
needs to be a whole person. And so to me, then the point system, I came out of corporate America and I did wellness programs. And I was telling Jen, like, we as humans will do anything for points. Like, one of my favorite things that I do is I will spend money on my credit card and be proud of myself for getting points. I'm like, yes,
Something about those airline points, I'm just gonna
the
say.
airline points. You're like, oh my gosh, I've done it. And then you're like on Facebook and you get a badge. You're like, I'm amazing. Yeah, it doesn't even
Yeah.
mean anything. So that, yeah. So that's where the animals tie in, and there's a whole thing behind this. Like eventually we will have avatars with my characters. I have children's books too that get
Yeah.
get kids into this. There's stories, plot twists, activities that they can kind of feel excited about this, and they can pick one of the characters. And eventually the character, mind, heart, or body will shrink if they're not using it. So they can kind of see where they are. So just give a visual. But that's what it's all about. I just want to make it more simple than it was for me to get kids playing. And it's my belief, and I've seen it with my own kids 17
Yeah.
years later. Once you get the kids outside playing kick the can and they realize how much fun it is, and their friends see them doing it and they come over, they're going to play longer because their imagination's going to grow and they're going to start, making weird, doing weird stuff. Like I turned, I played at the lake and seaweed became dinner. We were like, we didn't
I'm
actually eat
gonna say
it.
mud pies with
Mud pie.
roly-polies everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, kids, a lot of people kind of are wondering, like, well, how am I going to do this because my kids will push back? They will, but in their heart of hearts, they want to be outside playing. They really want to play. It is the most fun. Play is what they want to do. Technology is addicting. Let's try to remember that. It's addicting them. So it's really for their benefit too. And the 20-year-olds right now, I'm sure everybody's met the 20-year-old at the grocery store that can't look in your eyes. It's really sad because they went through puberty with social media. Can you imagine that?
Like I'm still like I think about my daughter's generation right now and I don't even know. Like I haven't even let myself imagine the things that they're going through that we didn't have to go through.
I didn't have to go through it. No,
So yeah, it's so interesting to have this conversation because there's many of us out here thinking this way and using our minds to get creative to connect with these generations. Um, and for me, I'm an artist. I think art is a great communicator, and you can sit
amazing.
with people and you can create, and that's the stuff that I know I do offline. And then I have the stuff that I do online. I have all these worlds that we go in and out of as adults and, kids. Do you have a specific personal story that like with maybe the kids that you raised? You said you're a stepmom or you were a stepmom and was there some more examples that we can dive into like that we could put to use today?
I think the funniest one, so the reason I started this is because when I met my stepkids at 4, 8, and 10, I'm 31 at the time, and I came from playing. So I told them I thought it was being super cool. And I'm like, go outside and play. And they came in, yeah, they came in literally 5 minutes later and they said, we don't know what to do. And I just was so confused about it. And that's when I started this journey.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing these activities with them, trying out a bunch of these activities back then with them. And my favorite story, the two younger ones are outside playing and I hear like them screaming bloody murder. But it wasn't, I knew something was wrong. But I go outside and the middle child, Camille, had this balloon and she is chasing her little brother around and they are screaming. And they had themselves convinced that the balloon was Jaws. Isn't that awesome? So, like when you used to do that, like you get yourself so like tied in a knot that like, it's not. So the coolest part about that is later in the summer, Camille is outside. That's the one who was chasing her little brother.
Yes.
She's outside with all the little kids in the neighborhood, and they're playing with these water balloons, and they've made up all these different games. So I literally saw it in my own head by my own experience that here's the kid that couldn't play, and she did this, and now she's leading all these other kids playing. And the coolest part about it was she came in and that time with the Jaws water balloon, and she came in and she opened the door and she said, Miss Shannon, using your imagination is the coolest. I kid you not, quote. So I was like, okay, 3 kids are saved.
And there's balloons are never out of style for kids. It's like an
No.
instant permission to play and
Well, here's the thing. I don't think anything is out of style for them. I think there's so
yeah.
many toys now and all this stuff. It's like a cat. Like I used to buy my cats all these stupid things,
Oh
and then
yeah,
I
and they just want a piece of paper.
they want a piece of paper. So that's what you need to do. And I love that you brought up art because one of the things we're going to do when we come out with, so we're going to have like the prototype for this app in about 4 weeks. And then after that, I'm going to open it up to people
Yeah.
to come in and test it because I want to know what people want. But one thing that we're doing that I'm very adamant about is I'm going to have it open to people putting in their ideas for activities because Jen just said she's an artist. She could send in probably 30 activities that I would never think of that it's your gift. So like you're like, oh, we do this, that, and the other thing. I am so excited for that because I want this to be a community because we're going to have to do this together. Because like
Yes.
you said, the
Yep.
kids are watching us.
Yep.
So if you want your kids offline, you got to put your phone down too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I want to be very clear. And I think I said it before. I'm not tech free at all. I'm tech light. Like we're on tech right now. Kids need to learn how to use technology, AI. Like we have to teach them the good and bad of AI, right? We can't just throw them out there at 18 and be like, good luck.
Whee!
Hey, hope you have fun. That one guy just married AI. I don't know if you heard that crazy.
No, I try
Yeah.
to stay, that's
Stay
me
away from
staying
it.
offline.
Stay away from it. Yeah. And I was like, that's what we're preventing. You don't marry your TV. You don't marry AI. Yeah.
Yeah, no matter how many movies come out predicting our behavior.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of imagination, y'all. Some of these new movies, they are predicting everything that we are already living.
Yeah.
So we're
Well, then
basically
I
just
say
wondering about it.
I'll be your local conspiracy theorist. They're trying to make us do that with this stuff. So get your kids off of it.
Right. Like just kind of like, keep the humanity aspect of who
Yes.
you are as a person. It's already hard enough to figure out who you are, even without all this stuff.
Well, and
And yeah,
I'm gonna tap into that too. That was the other thing that was really bothering me about this because if you don't get out and play and use your imagination,
yeah.
and you will not figure out who you are.
Hmm.
And your parents won't know who you are because I think you might have a child that goes outside, she's your girly girl, and all of a sudden she's playing with bugs. You wouldn't have known that. What a cool thing to learn about your kid. Or,
And I have found on my journey, let's say my journey of healing, right? A lot of things as adults, we just found out we're the same age, y'all. This is
I
awesome.
know, it's amazing.
But we have things to unpack from our childhoods. And so whether it was good or bad or whatever, you still have things that happened to you as a child that you're unpacking as an adult. Well, how do we do that? Well, one of the things is imagination and kind of taking yourself to these
And
places like
think
where was
about it.
I or how did
Mhm.
I feel at that time? And one exercise we did was imagine you're playing a game. What is the game and why are you playing it? And I was, imagining something in personal in my life too, like imagining kids on a playground. I imagine my pets that have passed on that they're in a little happy place in a playground, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly, Jen, because if we have this atrophying imagination muscle that I said, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that to me,
Everybody's gonna be telling you what to think and envision instead of you using your own mind, which is,
right,
it's one of those things that, and I guess in my own way, very passionate about too. Like, because I don't know. I don't need something to be written for me. I'd like to sit down and figure it out myself
yeah,
sometimes. It's just
yeah,
nice to like use your brain quite a bit. And when we've got people, declining in health and their brain's not working anymore, I mean, I can't imagine not being able to remember things and also like not being able to just explore with your mind. It's just
right,
pretty wild.
right. And you just hit something else too with the declining health. I mean, we can take this a whole different way, but your kids, if you get them outside playing, they've got their feet in the grass, they've got the vitamin D, the
They've got
sunshine.
their sun, a little
They
bit of
need
sun.
that. They need all this stuff. And the other thing that we haven't even touched upon, we keep talking about the imagination, which is huge, but when you play, you learn all those critical skills that you need to be an adult. So you learn problem solving, you learn empathy, compassion, you learn healthy expression, which is one of my favorite things. But if you're outside and you're with a group of friends and something doesn't go right, you're seeing their face at that moment and you can learn how to react. And also if you lose, you lose and tag, you get tagged, you get upset, you have your little meltdown, but you're having your meltdown in a safe place where you can come back from it versus going to work for the first time and having a meltdown with your boss. Not that great. I mean,
Yeah.
do it when you're 7 and 8 years old and get over it. So I just that to me, there's all sorts of research too on how leadership comes from play, critical thinking that you said. I don't want someone thinking for me. How do I think?
Yeah.
So all sorts of things are beneficial from this, which is what drove me because I'm like, okay, we all know this, but how do we do it when even me, who is sitting here preaching this, gets sucked in sometimes because it's made to suck us in. You
It
know,
is.
it is. We're like, ooh, dopamine. Ooh, someone liked it. Like, ah.
Yes, always. And those of us that are in business, we're told we have to have an online presence. We have to be engaged. And I totally understand that. I totally understand. And because I was talking about communities recently, I said I have a lot of online communities, but we're
Hmm.
still humans talking to each other and
Yes.
we're discussing things with each other. We're not having, discussions with a robot.
Right.
Or something that doesn't
Exactly.
have, eyes, ears, and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, and here, an example that I love because I love what you just said. Like it's different to have a Zoom because we're talking to each other. We're
Yeah.
interacting with each other. If I say something that hurts your feelings, I'm gonna know, right?
Yeah, you
It's
might
not like
see my face. Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna see your face. Um, but one of the coolest examples I heard and kind of upsetting, but like imagine if you're a parent and you want your kid to learn how to ride a bike and all you do is show the child videos of someone riding a bike. They're never going to learn how to ride a bike. They
Yeah.
actually have, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
never going to learn how to ride a bike. You actually have to take them out, put them on the bike, and let their bodies feel, let them fall. That's the idea with this. So you can have them watching videos of kids playing and watching videos of kids crying and all this stuff and working stuff out. But until they emotionally go out and play and feel it, they're not actually going to learn any of stuff. You cannot learn that stuff from a screen. You have got to actually feel it. And so that's the big deal there.
Yeah, just so y'all know, you're not Neo from the Matrix, no matter how much we want to download the skills. Even Neo
Pretty
from the
awesome.
Matrix had to go out and practice those skills too.
He
So he got the
did.
information, but he went outside and said, "Okay, we got to put this to work now because I have something to do. I have things to do."
I'm writing that down. That was awesome. He
Right,
did. He
right.
had
Because
no practice.
I always think in movies too, because movies has been influential in my life over this lifetime. But there's such really cool little insights you can get from these characters that are basically a representation of humanity in some ways.
Yeah.
Just all these characters kind of tell their own stories. But yeah, like, so stuff like that. Like, I think about all the information that even today you might have learned something new, everybody listening, that maybe you need to go play as an adult. Maybe you need to learn how to play again so you can show your children or the
Hmm.
children in your life that the nieces and nephews of the world, right?
Yeah.
There's something that we can all do, I think, in this community, just of the world just to kind of interact with each other and maybe try something you haven't tried before. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that app coming out.
Yeah,
But
I'm
also
excited.
I'm excited to see ideas coming out even more so. Like I'm ready for
I do
some
think I'm just
ideas.
I'm one person, one company
Yeah.
right now offering tools. I believe there's going to be so many more things. I'm excited. I'm excited once one family in the neighborhood starts getting their kids out more. I picture other families seeing the kids out there, and it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. I
I'm
just
super stoked. And look at that. Look at that. We have to wrap up the conversation in a few minutes. So I asked you before we got on here if you had a tattoo. So I want to hear all about this tattoo
Oh
story
my
before,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. So everyone our age will appreciate this. So I was 23 years old. I was a communication consultant. I'm sitting in my cubicle. Okay. I'm a writer and I'm so mad. So I have to do something. And this is before, like, this is not a lot of people had tattoos. So I have to do something to break free. Right. So I love ladybugs. So I go get this tiny ladybug right at like my underwear line. And this is hilarious. I'm like, no one will ever see it. Right. No one will ever see it. So it's really small. And then what was that like 2001, 2000, yeah, 2001, 2000. They lowered the pant level. Remember when we went from like waist level
Uh-huh.
to the hip level? So now this
Uh-huh.
ladybug is coming out of my pant. My tattoo. I don't even know what it looks like now. Now it's like a fading weird blob because that was so many years ago. But yeah, that's my story. It was supposed to be this hidden thing, and then they lowered the pants. I'm like,
That
well,
is
that's okay
so
then.
funny. Okay, so what was that first that since it's your only tattoo, what was your experience like going to pick that out? Like, did you already have that in your head or was
I
like,
knew I wanted to get a ladybug. That's all I like. I just went with a ladybug, and my sister had tattoos, so she took me. That's it. And that is how I am, though. For better or worse, I come up with an idea and I just go do it. Like that's like, all right, we're going. Yeah, that's a gift and not a gift sometimes. So
So,
I
and what's funny is yesterday on the previous episode. So everybody listening, if you haven't heard the previous episode, you have to because I had instant momming happening during that episode. And a friend of mine, I had never met her in person. We only spoke to each other on Clubhouse, so we only knew each other by voice.
okay,
And she shows up and she says, "Hey, there's this great idea I found on TikTok. Let's go get $10 tattoos in Las Vegas because we were already in Vegas."
okay,
And I said, "You know what? That sounds fun. I can commit to a tiny little tattoo. I've already got plenty." So it's like, I had never done a tiny tattoo
I
before,
need,
like,
yeah.
but like less than an inch, right? And so we met each other, said hello, hopped in a cab, and went to the tattoo shop. 30 minutes later, we're in and out, and we go right back to where our friends were sitting, and we're like, "We're back!"
Oh my gosh, what did you get?
That one, I got a spaceship.
Okay,
I got a little tiny spaceship. It's adorable. And then we went back 2 years later. I think we went back last year, and we got some tattoos. There was a group of like four of us. We're like, yeah, let's
okay.
go. And
I
so
have to
talk
tell you,
about ideas, right? That's a perfect example of,
yeah,
hey, let's go play. And it's two friends
mhm.
that turns into four friends that turns into
That's
more
exactly it.
friends.
Yes. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. We want to play, everybody. I know we want to play. And I love that you brought the parents into it. We need to play too. We need to have fun.
Yeah, yeah, there's something about, and I think that's, and just so everybody, like, part of me, like, when I watch stuff on airplanes, right? I watched the documentary with William Shatner, and he literally kept saying over and over again, the wonder and amazement like a child. He says that's what he feels like has stayed with him through all these years. He's 90 something years old, but he said that wonder and questioning and the things of life that has led him to his path. I was like, that is so profound that it is so simple, but we have caught ourselves up in this giant web of keeping everything complicated. So, um, but yeah, so I
Sorry.
really, I really liked that he remembered to keep that part of himself, like that wonder and amazement and childlike curiosity, which when I meet people like that, I'm very inspired by that. So this to me feels like it's giving us all permission to continue to be curious and ask questions. And so as we're rounding up our conversation, what should we leave people with today that would be some like a punch of wisdom or a little bit tidbit of nuggets? What would you leave with them today?
So first off, I love that you said nuggets because my app is called the Thoughts and Nuggets of Fun. So look at
Yay!
you. Um, so what I really wanted to tell people is when you think of your childhood, I want you to pick one of your favorite memories. And as you're doing that, I can almost guarantee that you're thinking of a time you were playing.
Mm.
Because there's not many people who think of a time they were playing online. You're
You
probably
weren't
picturing,
working a full-time job,
yeah,
so
you are, yeah. So it's probably something, yeah, like between 6 and 12, think of yourself, and I'm almost positive you're going to put yourself outside doing something or at a water park, something like that. And I want you to feel how you're feeling right now, and it's probably making you smile. It's probably making your heart happy. And so what I am stressing to you is to not take that away from our kids. We want them to have those memories too. And I really do believe with tools like I'm talking about and with personalities and fun people like Jen, that we can lock arms and do this and we can bring the joy of childhood back for our children. So that is my last bit of wisdom. I know we can do it because we can
yes,
do
and
anything.
yeah, and I'll add on to that too. As part of your journey as an adult, take yourself back to those happy memories for a second, then ask yourself questions. Why can you not play, or why can you not feel the sensory of how it feels to go play and just be free as a person? So I would ask you to just kind of take a minute to do that today, because your answers that you might get from that exercise might surprise you. And then as the app comes out, I'm hopefully we get tons of ideas for all of us to access. So
Yeah.
when we do have access to these tools, don't forget to access it for yourself too, not just your kids, but be an example to them too.
Yeah.
Be an
I love
inspiration
that,
for them,
Jen.
and then kind of like
Yeah.
watch and then listen to them. They have great ideas.
They do. Yes, they
So
do.
as we're saying goodbye today, thank you, Shannon, for coming on today and sharing a little bit of your business and the things that you've got going on. And I know that you've got books out there and you've got this new app coming out. So we'll be looking forward to seeing more of you, Shannon. So
Well, I am so appreciative to have been your guest, and this has been wonderful. And you put a huge smile on my face, which is
all right, me too. I'm totally smiling. I can't help it. All right, goodbye, everybody, and see you on the next episode.